Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, Jody Lynn Craven.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Jody Lynn, we've often talked about the various kinds of abilities that we're able to develop over the years, intuitive abilities, psychic abilities. You're a channeler, so channeling abilities, things along those lines. And it's always fun when we have those conversations around those topics, because who knows what's going to come out of them, right? I mean, it's always going to be different every time.
Yeah.
Like when you're channeling, I never know what's going to come out of your mouth. I don't think you know what's going to come out of your mouth. Do you?
Never.
No.
Yeah. That's why it's so wild.
It is. Yeah. And it's fun and it's intriguing and it keeps things going. So yeah, we're going to experience that today because we have somebody who is an expert on intuition, and not only being intuitive, but also helping other people to develop their own intuition. Her name is Anna Quigley. She's a transformational coach and mentor, and she's here to not only share that with us, but to basically tell the story of how she got there. And we want to hear it. So Anna, welcome to the program. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. Good to talk to both of you.
We're glad to have you. So tell us a little story. How did you get to be Anna Quigley today?
Oh. How long do we have? I've been a seeker. And I think early on in my life, I just kind of knew there was something that I was supposed to be doing, and I didn't have a clue. There was a lot of angst around that. And at the same time, like high school, early in college, I was terrified about making a wrong decision. I thought, I honestly think it comes back to my loving the poem, The Road Not Taken, because I took it too literally. You go this way, that's it. You're on that path, until I finally realized that I have the agency. I can just shift. I can, if I don't like this path, either turn around or just cut across and take a different road, create a whole new direction. And that was really empowering. That was, I think, the beginning.
Yeah, well, when you find out that you aren't locked in, that's always a good feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Very powerful. It's like, no, I have control. I have agency over what I do. I'm not locked into something. So that was huge. And then I started a lot of spiritual study, world religions, and looking at all of the possibilities. And I started to learn about intuition and tapping into the power of that. And it was like, wow, why didn't I know about this sooner? It just this guidance that I have found I can always count on. I've tested it. I'm a little bit of a skeptic, or was then, not now. And I thought, let's see if this is really real. And I had some amazing experiences with like, oh yeah, okay. I'm really onto something good here.
Okay, like give us you can't just leave it hanging there. I mean, come on, that's not fair.
I thought that might get you, Walt. It's the silliest thing, but there's no large or small when it comes to this kind of thing. You both know that. And I wanted a belt, and I thought, okay, I want a particular color, this particular style. It was popular at the time. And I thought, okay, let me ask my intuition. Where do I go to find this? Dumb, right? Just silly little nonsense thing. And I knew of a shop across town, like 20 minutes across town. I thought, okay, I knew they had a lot, but there were 10 places in between. And I thought, okay, I'm going to stop. And I stopped at every single one, and nobody had the exact product, the exact belt that I wanted. So I finally got to the shop, and I looked around, and they didn't have it either. And I thought, okay, let me look one more time. And I dug around, and I thought, oh, well, I tried. This was a test, and now I know. And as I started walking out the door, I got near the checkout counter, and my little voice, the intuition said, just ask. And I'm like, no, why? They're going to say, if it's not on the floor, we don't have it, Mm-hmm. And I started to take another step, and again, it was like, just ask. I'm like, all right, fine. This is a test. Let's take the test to the full fruition. So I walked up to the counter, and she had a picture. This is exactly what I want, the color, everything else. And without even batting an eye, the woman behind the counter says, oh, yeah, it came in this morning. We just haven't had a chance to put it out.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, there's something to this after all. So I think that's a moment I became a believer.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, that actually sounds familiar. I mean, Jody Lynn, does that sound like your experiences?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, really well. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, how does it happen like this? So I love when instances like that happen because it just keeps reconfirming and it makes it fun, actually, doesn't
Well,
it?
it's also not, it's not fun during, but it's fun afterward when you look back on those
Yeah.
instances where every step along the way you said, no, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
every step it worked.
Mhm.
Yeah. Constant reinforcement. So
Yeah.
yeah, at some point, and that's one of the things that I teach my clients or offer my clients is like a tracking sheet, even because
Mm.
we don't pay attention. It's like, oh yeah, oh that guided me here, or that guided me there, and you kind of forget, and it builds confidence, it builds faith, and yeah, this is real. This is
And
real.
it breaks down barriers. I mean, speaking for myself, there was an instance that I had recently where I knew I wanted a particular thing, and I knew where it could be, but I knew the odds were also against it.
Mhm.
And so I kept talking myself out of it. And every time I talked myself out of it, my circumstance would change just enough to put me on a path that put me toward it. No matter how much I tried to talk myself out of it, I kept being redirected. Like, no, just go here anyway. Like, what? No, this is absurd. After a while, I realized what was going on. I said, no, 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 you can't play this game with me. No, this is not fair. I know that you're leading me astray. I know this is not, no, to just keep going. All right. Oh, but this is a waste of time. Why am I doing this? And of course, it was right there.
That's so
Right.
funny. That's the exact same feeling I had that time. It's like, come on, this isn't going to work. This isn't real. And that's interesting because you've been doing this a while, and yet we're human, right? You still have those moments where you go, nah, 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 that's
Yeah, like daily.
Yeah. Mhm.
like daily. Can I tell a tale on myself? Because this
Yes.
this was a good list. This not too long ago, a couple of months ago, and I've been studying this, working on this, teaching this for years. But I was coming home from an acupuncture session and I was just all blessed and zoned out. And I'm going to take a back road, lots of trees by a golf course. It's much more relaxing. I didn't want to take the freeway, but I got close to the freeway and that little voice is like, take the freeway. I'm like, it kind of startled me because I was really in this relaxed state of mind. And I'm like, no, no, we're going this way. The rational mind is, it's like, no, no. So, I didn't take the freeway and I went about a block and a half past and again louder it's like turn around, take the freeway. I hate turning around. I hate seriously, it's one of my things. It's like, nah, I'm not, that's a waste. The rational mind can be a bully, and it was like, no, we had a plan, we're going this way. And I thought, okay, I ignored it not once, twice. That's how silly I was. And I turned a corner about a quarter of a mile later and ran into major construction on the road.
Mm.
And, it was probably half an hour delayed in getting home. Not what I had planned, but I laughed. I had to laugh at myself because you know better. And look what you still did, But what I liked about that, because it's given me such a good teaching lesson, is that's often how it is. And you two both know, when you listen to your intuition and follow it, maybe nothing happens. It could just be a neutral thing. I could have gotten home safely, easily, quickly, faster, and not really known what I missed. It's only when we don't listen to it that we find, oh yeah, that's why, that's why it was guiding me here. And
Well, there are rare occasions. I mean, not often, but there are rare occasions where I do find out what it was that I missed by taking the right route.
sometimes, yes, and
My sister
sometimes we have.
in North Carolina, my sister was a lead in a play, and so I had to go down to see her. It was the first time she'd ever gotten the starring role. So I'm driving in. This is in southwestern North Carolina, near the South Carolina border.
Okay.
And I'm driving along main highway there. It's an interstate highway. And I wasn't even planning to get my GPS out because I wasn't really close enough yet to need it. But I got this really strong feeling, get the GPS out. So I got the GPS out and started, and it instantly said, take this exit. I said, okay. So I took the exit, and within 3 minutes, I found myself paralleling the interstate highway jam-packed for like 20 miles. I said, oh, that's why. Okay.
I know. Don't you hate that you're human sometimes? It's like,
Well, I just love that I actually got the feedback that told me why it worked. I mean, most of the time you don't get the feedback. That time I actually got like, oh, wow, that was actually worthwhile. Who knew?
Yeah. That's true. Most of the time we don't know.
Right.
Something wonderful can happen, or you can avoid something that you realize.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's something neutral. Maybe you find a great restaurant or connect with somebody you've been thinking about. But it helps me run Saturday errands and stop, save trips, and it's just there's no big or small with it. That's what's so
Yeah, that's true. It
amazing.
can be mundane. It can be really, really boringly mundane.
Well,
I mean,
like,
I actually had an example of that today. I'm currently working on a coding project. I'm believe it or not, I'm trying to create my own local AI on my local computer.
wow.
And there's a whole lot of programming involved in that. And with programming kind of sounds really cool because it sounds like you're writing all this code. That's probably about 3% of the time. The rest of it is testing and breaking, testing and breaking, testing and breaking, which is really boring. Really just tediously boring. And the testing breaking part had been going on now for almost 4 weeks since the last time I got to actually play with it a little bit
Wow.
and see how it all worked out. And I got up today, it's like, oh God, another day of testing and breaking. I mean, another day of just plug it in, wait, broke, try this, plug it in. I didn't know how much more I could handle of it. I said, just do it anyway. Something's going to be different today. And about 2 or 3 hours before the show today, the test stopped breaking. What? That's not the way programming works. I actually finished this portion of the project.
That's
but I
amazing.
didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
All I knew was just go with it. Just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
That was all I knew.
I love that you use that language because it does seem like that. It's not logical, but just do it.
Just do it anyway.
Just listen. Just pay attention.
Yeah.
Why are you questioning? It's like, why are you questioning this? You know better. And still we do.
And then when it actually came out right, it was a shock. Like, oh, is that supposed to happen?
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
It's not all that. Well, I refer to the channeling that you do, Jody Lane. I mean, it's not all that different from when you're channeling, right? Because you don't. I mean, we talked about that before. You don't really know what's going to come out, but you also have to be willing to just let it come out and let it get past that little filter in your head that says, "What the hell am I saying?"
Exactly. Yeah. Like, especially with my channel, it's very in depth. And there's a lot of language that I don't use on a normal basis. So when I channel, like I just say the words. I've gotten over it. Just say the things. And then I'm like, did that make any sense? Did I use the right word?
Was it English?
Was that English? Like, did those sentences together actually produce something that, makes sense to you, or like extraordinary, or whatever, anywhere in between? Or was that just gibberish? Because I'm not usually like really listening to interpret as I'm channeling. I find that with channeling versus intuition, channeling, I go to the place, like I sit here and I go to the place in my mind where I meet my team, and like there's all this stuff that I do to make sure that I'm safe and it's the right people that I want, or beings that I want to channel. And there's like a purpose and there's a conversation. Like, we're going to have a chat, like just like you call up your buddy on the phone. Whereas intuition, it's more subtle and unexpected a lot of times, or that's how I've experienced it. And that almost is a little bit harder to manage too, because it comes up and then you're like, I don't know. And sometimes it's so small, but it's leading you in that direction. Like, I find it's easy for me to do errands while I'm listening to my intuition, like which direction to go. Like, that's, no one's going to die. Nothing bad is really going to happen if I go left versus right. Like, how bad could it be if I follow this road? Right? Or I don't follow this road. But when it's something like bigger, and I'd love for you to speak to this, Anna, when it's something bigger for me, like if I'm like planning my life, my purpose, like what's next for Jody Lynn Craven?
Yeah.
my intuition would be like, all right, turn left. I'm like, what do you mean turn left? Like, I'm not even driving. Like, what does that even mean? How do I, what? It's harder for me to follow the small, like seemingly insignificant, but on the back end, very significant steps that the intuition like comes up with, like, oh, you should do this. I'm like, how's that going to get me there? Like, I
love that, because it's true. It's like, it's so insignificant, little. And I'm not a medium or a channel that way, but I did a mastermind for years, and a spiritual mastermind. And I get to the point where I was doing the affirmations and what it was that I wanted to bring about in my life. And it was like channeling, because I just kind of opened up some portal in my spirit or something. And all this stuff started coming out. And my mastermind partner says, you got to start recording this stuff.
That is channeling, Anna.
And I did. It was because I wasn't thinking, I wasn't planning like the rational mind. I wasn't thinking what I was going to say. I just opened up, and same thing, words were coming out, expressions that I don't use on a daily basis. So I understand exactly what you're saying. There's a whole different feeling with that than intuition. And then a lot of ways, when you open up to the channeling, it's easier because it just flows. It just flows. Intuition, you have to make a rational decision or a non-rational decision to just, this doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, most of the time it's not rational at all.
Most of the time it's not rational. And then there's when I didn't take the freeway, that the rational mind is just a bully sometimes. It's like, I said we're going to do it this way. I mean, when I was like, just go, we're going to do this. It was like a 4-year-old having a tantrum. It's like, no, you can't tell me what to do. We're going this way. It's just so funny how it shows up.
Totally.
It's amazing. And well, Jody Lynn, I know you do most of your channeling just for yourself, but you occasionally do it with other people too. You've done it on the show as well. On those occasions, where, especially when there's somebody that you're doing it with, maybe even providing messaging for them, and then you say something that makes absolutely no sense to you, and the other person that you're working with says, "Wow, that's amazing." How often does that happen?
A lot, like all the time. Especially because there's a lot of like big words. Like my crew, they are all about big words that I don't normally use. So I'm like, what did I even just say? Like, can you make that like English, please? Like, what is that word? I have no idea. Sometimes when I'm channeling it, like I have a group that I channel with a lot, and it's like a legal financial like project. And like a lot of legal and financial terms like pop out of my mouth. And I'm a financial advisor also. Like I have a brokerage. So some of this stuff makes sense, but it's like way another level. And it doesn't like, I don't know how these things come together. It just comes through. I'm like, here you go. It makes no sense to me. Do what you will.
But when you get the feedback though from somebody else, like you not necessarily financial, but you're just sharing some information and it really resonated with the other person in a way that you didn't expect. Like you say something that it's as if you said the goat just read the cheese, which makes absolutely no sense. And the other person says, of course I did have a goat that was reading the cheese. And you're saying, what?
Yeah. It's like another level of confidence. Like you were saying, Anna, it was like building that confidence. And I feel like the more that I'm in touch with that side of things, the more my intuition gets louder also. And I build that confidence. Like the other day I went grocery shopping at Costco. And I was like going down the aisles or whatever. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. Me and my husband tried to do carnivore intermittently. So like we eat a lot of meat and really nothing else. And I was at Costco, which has a lot of good stuff. And I'm like, I think these look good. And I picked up these pita chips, which I'm eating mostly meat. So I don't really eat a lot of junk food as much anymore. But for whatever reason, I put it in my cart. I don't know why. I just thought, oh, I think, my husband, I always call him Papa. I think he would like this. Whatever. I put it in my cart and go home and not think about it or whatever. And then he goes to the pantry and he's like, how did you know that I wanted those pita chips? And he's like, did I tell you the other day? And I said, no, we've never had this conversation. And he's like, well, I was just talking about them at work because somebody had them at work and he tried them and he liked them and he wanted them. And he put it in his head that he should tell me the next time I went to Costco, but he never did. But I knew it was just my intuition. I grabbed the box. I was like, oh, Papa, I like these. But then move on. It was no big deal, right?
It's things like that make people call this woo-woo. Totally. But it's not. There's scientific evidence behind intuition and listening to that, which I love. I love the geeky stuff, the science stuff behind it.
I do too. I would love for you to tap into that, Anna.
This I found fascinating. When I started doing research, we get 11 million bits of information every single second that come at us, visual, auditory, sensory, everything. 11 million bits. What surprised me is that only 1% is picked up by our brain. Only 1%. The rest of it's picked up by our senses, which when you think about how intuition makes itself known, it makes itself known through the senses. And it's like, oh, that makes total sense now, because the senses are what are picking up these signals. And it all, the gut, they call it the second brain, the gut intestinal section, they actually call it the second brain. It's that strongly connected, and it's just fascinating. So when you think that, we get these little auditory messages, or you see a repetitive sign regularly, or, if somebody tells me about a book I need to read, like 2 or 3 people in a row, I go, okay, go buy that book because there's something in there for me. All these little subtle ways, kind of like you picking up the chips, come to us. And again, it's getting familiar with them, but it's just fascinating because, well, and then you take it to the next level when you start working on not just intuition, but let's start shifting our lives. Let's take the intuition and figure out how we're going to work with that. You start with sensory imagination, and you literally are reprogramming, you're re-engineering your brain by by using power language and visualizing what you want, but in detail and clarity, not just, oh yeah, I'd like a new house, or I'm not happy with my job. But when you talk about, okay, the house I want is this big, and this is where it is, and this is what the backyard looks like, and you feel your feet on the grass, and the more of your senses, the more of all of your senses you can use in creating that visualization, you're reprogramming your brain. It goes, oh, okay, that's what we want today. That's what we're going to bring. That's what we're going to show up. It's so cool. I just love the way it works.
It is cool. It's also a little bit disorienting at first. At least it was for me. I don't know about you ladies, but for me, it was very disorienting, in part because I was a perpetual planner. I mean, I could plan anything literally to death. Like never taking any actual steps, just planning. Continuous planning, everlasting planning.
I have a little bit of that too, Walt, so I get you on that.
You know that one. Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Well, in the process of being that everlasting planner, one of the reasons that I would do that is because I was really shook up a lot of the time about, well, how am I going to get there? How is this going to happen? I have to make this happen somehow. I mean, okay, law of attraction. I put out there what I want, but I got to do something. I mean, the action piece is an important piece.
Critical.
I just never got to it because I kept planning all the time. Because I was trying to figure out, well, what's the optimal piece? There's got to be the one that's the optimal path, right? That's the one that you want. You don't want to take any of the others.
The linchpin that's going to like open it up,
right.
as if it's just going to magically happen. No, you got to move your feet. You got to take steps and follow up. Like your intuition, Jody, when you're talking about that, it's like you just not just like, oh, I had an intuitive thing. You have to turn right, or you have to take the freeway when you're told to take the freeway, or run the errand, or pick up the chips. It's like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but you took the action and you got the result that you were guided to, and your husband, I'm sure, was very happy.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was very happy.
And
This is
smile.
actually how I started to build my business way back in the day. And I didn't know a lot about intuition. I didn't really know that, I had the ability to connect or like any of these things. But I would, when I was taught in business, they were like, all right, put down your list of people, you're going to like talk to everybody that you've ever known in your entire life and tell them that you're in financial services now. And I was like, all right, okay, I'm very coachable. I'm writing all the names down. And then they tell you start at the top and go all the way through, like just line by line, go to each person, because people will skip thinking, oh, this person is taken care of, or I'm too scared to call this person or whatever. I mean, I still had the same fears as everybody else,
Sure.
but I would feel called to phone this person. And then I would look at the list and another name would pop out. And it wouldn't be the next one in line. It'd be like 10 down. And instead of judging it, I would just go with it. Okay, I'll call that person, then I'll call this person. And that's how I built my entire business at the very beginning. It was like, all right, who needs me? If they pop into my head, I call them and they're like, oh yeah, I was just thinking about you. I need life insurance, or I need this, or I need that. Like, it's the wildest thing. Where it would just lead me to the right place or the right person or the right connection. I just had no judgment about it. I didn't even know that was like intuitive nudges. I was just like, all right, great. I do this. I do this. I couldn't even explain it.
How interesting, because your coaches were saying that you had to go down the list one after another. So in that sense, you really weren't coachable. You skipped the coaching and went right to the intuition.
I didn't tell them that, though. They're like, you got to go through the list like this. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And I'd look at my list and then I'd go to the next one. They weren't watching me make calls. They just, saw me on the phone and they were like, okay, good. She's talking to somebody. Like, at least she's talking to somebody. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then I started to teach that and they didn't like that much.
Because that's going against the rational rules. So
yes, exactly. Yes.
I love that you said that I had no judgment. You had no judgment. It's like, yeah, it's the judgment's that stupid rational, not stupid, because the rational mind is good. It helps us with a lot, but it blocks us from all of that. And it, you were just naturally, intuitively following that, which is amazing, and not having judgment. That's a huge point. That's a great point. It's like, you don't have to, why am I doing this? The questioning, like, while you were talking about doing, and like I did, that doesn't make any sense. Why the heck am I doing this? Just no judgment, just okay. But that's what comes with getting familiar and practicing and getting to trust it. I mean, that's the first step, is like, okay.
In fact, it's even in the movies. Did you know that? There's a scene in one of the Harry Potter movies. I don't know if you know the Harry Potter franchise, but one of the characters is Professor Trelawney, who's this really, she is supposedly a seer who really has a lot of trouble getting the seeing right and has a tendency to predict everybody's death all the time. So she's got this little side to her, and nobody believes her. Nobody gives her any credibility except for Professor Dumbledore. He's the only one. Professor Dumbledore believes in her because she got one prophecy right. It was a prophecy about Voldemort. Other than that, nobody else believed. Well, at one point in one of the movies, she's laying out a tarot layout on a table. And the tarot layout is mimicking the entire Harry Potter story, including Dumbledore being thrown off the tower.
Wow.
And she gets out of the top card and she says, well, that can't be right. And she pulls all the cards together and reshuffles them to start all over because that was the wrong reading. She didn't believe her own reading.
Wow.
Star Wars, the same thing. I have an example from the first Star Wars, or the first one that was out, not in the series. But when the Rebel Alliance is going to the Death Star because they're going to blow it up, and they're all flying, and Luke's flying down. He gets in the channel and he's flying around. He's got his computer. That's the rational mind. He's got a computer and he's looking at that and he shoots one missile and it misses the port. And he's, and there's Obi-Wan going, Luke, trust, just trust it. And Luke shuts down the computer and the rest of the alliance is freaking out. What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop it. And he just like, okay, let the force is intuition. The force is intuition. And he's like, okay, shuts the computer down, hits the thing, flies off, and the Death Star blows up. That's like, that's Obi-Wan and the force. That's intuition. It's in so many movies.
Always.
Yeah.
We even did a show on that one time about the force being the law of attraction. That was a fun show to do.
Yeah, it's such a clear example. I mean, there's so many things like that. And it's like, like the force, then you go to Yoda and all of that. It's just pretty amazing stuff.
Well, in a sense, both of you are Yodas. You're both coaches, and you're a mentor.
I like that. Thank you. I'm gonna.
You're a Yoda.
That's
what a Yoda is.
Yeah, that's cool.
It looks like Yoda, so that.
Well, yeah, you don't have the ears, but I mean, we can let that go. If you ever want to back out, you can say, "I just don't have the ears for it."
Yeah.
But that's any of us that are coaching and sharing our knowledge, I mean, whatever it is, whether it's institutional knowledge or just centuries of information, life lessons that you share. That's what we are. We're teachers.
So you're Yoda too, Walt.
Yes, you are.
I'm a different kind of Yoda. I'm a Yoda behind a microphone, interviewing people. Yoda was constantly criticized. I'm constantly asking questions. It's the same thing. It's just two different things.
But the microphone's your channel.
That's it. Yeah.
That's your channel. Jody Lynn has a different channel.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes through in different ways, and we use it.
In fact, the podcast was the first time that I actually tried my own kind of psychic channeling, because I had all these guests. I've had psychics and channelers and all kinds of psychic type modalities from various people on the show. And over time, it kind of wears on you. Like, well, why can't I do this? Everybody else can seem to do it except me. And I had, of course, everybody who came on the show, I would ask, is this something anybody can learn? And universally, 100%, oh yes, everybody can learn this. And that just made me feel worse because I couldn't seem to learn it. But I decided, okay, I'm just going to try this sometime. I don't even know where or when. And as soon as I said that to myself, I said, I'll do it on the podcast. I said, yeah, okay. That doesn't sound very safe. But eventually I got to a point in a show where I normally am very good at asking questions. I learned it from my father, and it's something I do very, very easily. So I can keep almost any show going. But every once in a while, I'll reach a point where a question just isn't coming, and I'm not sure where to go with it. And the conversation seems to have run its course. And yet we've got another 15 minutes left, and I want to do something with the 15 minutes. And so I said, okay, the next time that happens, I'll just try the channel. I have no idea what to do. I'll just try it anyway. And within about 3 or 4 weeks, a situation like that came. I said, okay, here we go. We're live. How the hell am I going to do this? I don't know. We'll just do it. So it was my turn to talk. And I said, open your mouth. I opened my mouth. Say something. And I kind of sputtered for a moment. And then words started coming out. And it was that same thing. The voice in the back of my head was saying, what the hell am I saying? Does any of this make sense? Is this even English? Is it structured? Does it make any kind of cognitive focus at all? It was the only time, Anna, that I've ever listened to my own episode. I don't listen to my own episodes. I had to listen to that one to find out if the damn thing made any sense.
That's just what Jody was saying. It's like, what?
And it was astonishing because it was brilliant.
Yeah. So good.
Smarter than if we're rationally trying to come up with a language, at least in my experience it is.
I mean, I actually found a different way to be intimidated. Before I was intimidated about trying to do it. Now I was intimidated by what was coming out.
So funny.
So yeah, it's quite an experience the first time you actually allow yourself to break through. And I can't say I do it regularly and routinely, but I have been doing it in little steps. Incrementalism is my favorite way to do things. So every once in a while, I'll allow myself to do a little test, a little bit here, a little bit there, and then long gaps in between because that doesn't feel safe to do it too often. As opposed to Jody Lynn, who does it like every day.
I was going to ask, what's keeping you from doing it more often? You said you're just doing it in little pieces. There's some level of discomfort in
fear.
Opening up. Fear. Okay.
Pure fear. Let's be perfectly honest. It's fear. What if I screw up? What if I get it wrong? What if I'm stupid? What if somebody's seeing me?
Yeah.
All the things.
All of that. Yeah. And so what?
But so what doesn't have anything to do with it? I'm afraid. And actually, that's the conversation I end up having myself on those occasions where I'm willing to try it. Like, what do you got to lose here? I got everything to lose. Like what? Oh, all right. I can't think of anything. I'll try it. Fine.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a conversation. Like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll try it for this moment, and then it turns into something.
Yeah.
But
I
does that
could
convince
be
me?
embarrassed,
It doesn't really. It gives me a little more evidence, but I think I have to go through my entire lifetime before I finally say, okay, I got enough evidence.
Before you really believe it.
Before I really believe.
Okay, I got to share one other one because this is kind of wild. It was a crisis point in my life, and everything was kind of, this perfect, wonderful life that I was living where I wanted to live, in the house I wanted to live, and life was good and great job. And all of a sudden the job ended, and I ended up in a lawsuit with the co-owner of my building, and it was like the whole thing was just imploding. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And the first thing that pops into my mind is like, okay, I need to go sit on top of a mountain and meditate, because that's where I get my clarity. I got to find my stillness, my centeredness. And it wasn't even a day and a half later, my cousin called and said, I'm going to India to an ashram. Do you want to go with me? And the ashram happened to be on the top of a mountain. My rational mind is like, no, you need to find another job, deal with the attorneys. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm going to India. It doesn't get bigger than that,
No kidding. So what happened? You go to India?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Went and took all the shots first. That was my first time to India. No, it was fantastic. Spent 3 weeks at an ashram. It ended up not being at the mountains. They had to go to the other one because there was like a diphtheria outbreak or something.
Oh, sure.
So, I know. So we were like, in Bangalore instead of up on top of the mountain. It was fantastic. It was amazing. And like it usually is, I came back with clarity. I didn't come back with the whole picture, but I came back with the next step. The one, I get to see like 3 feet in front of me. That's kind of how my life seems to be going. And it was like, okay, you're going to move. And I, been living in San Francisco. I loved it. And it's like, what? What? Why, what? Why am I? Okay. All right. And I moved. I sold my house. I moved up to Washington State. And I had no idea what I was going to do. It's like, okay, now what? And it's like painting the house and going, okay, talk to me, tell me. And I started getting, some clarity. What I ended up doing is started an import business. And guess where I was importing from India. I'd been there. I'd seen the product. I knew kind of what I wanted to do. And And so it all tied together. It was like, isn't this interesting how it works?
Cool.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you also touched on something because one of my fears, I mentioned, I think pretty plainly that fear is what stops me on those occasions when it stops me. One of the fears is that I'll be wrong. But another fear is that I won't even get a message. And that's kind of what you started to express. You actually trusted and got the messages, but it sounded like for a moment you were afraid. Well, where's the messages? All right, I moved to Washington. That's what you want me to do. Where's the freaking message?
Well, that's it. And it's, because it was, I took the first step. I took a leap of faith. I'm here. Now what? What am I supposed to do now? Cheryl Richardson wrote a book, and this is partially how I made the decision. And in it, I think this was so helpful for me. And again, another weird way of connecting. She said, when you're not clear on something, she said, ask your friends and your family, the people that really know you well, ask them 2 questions. First, what do you think I love? What do you think I love? And the second one is, what do you think I'm good at? Because for me, and what I've seen in women, anything that comes easily, that's just automatic, we tend not to value very, very much. And the responses, number one for me was, you love to travel. Well, everybody that knows me knows that's my number one passion. But what do you think I'm good at? I had a couple people say, oh, you're so good at accessorizing your clothes and your house and all of this. Thank you. Give me something I can use. Thank you for the compliment, but go away. Give me something good. Well, here's where it tied back. And the irony, when I went to India on my first buying trip, every shop, every mall, every stall, not a mall, they don't malls, stall, street vendors that was selling accessories handbags, scarves, jewelry, small furniture. I made a beeline to it. And it took a couple of days. All of a sudden I go, oh, hello, like, oh, I could have had a V8 kind of moment. It's like, this is how that ties in. It kind of shocked me. I go, okay, a leap of faith. And it's like, it all tied together. And I had that business for like 8 years.
Anna, you seem to be really good at taking that leap of faith.
Well, I've learned it's better to take the leap because things don't work out as well when I don't listen, like getting stuck in traffic. And that's minor. I've hit some potholes, but it's listening to it's kept me out of a potentially really bad relationship, and it's guided me to jobs that I didn't think were going to be much that turned out to be my favorite jobs. So it's been a process. Like I said, I started learning about this when I was probably early college, and so it's been trial and error. It's been testing, and it's been a lot of time of learning to listen. And obviously, since I got stuck in traffic, I still don't always listen. I still don't pay attention. Better, hard not to beat myself up, but it's like, okay, so take it as a lesson. And I thought, all right, it's a good teaching point for me and for clients. It's like,
you just said something that's really important. I don't want to skip past it. Not beating yourself up.
Yeah.
Because what I realized was that a lot of the reasons that I came up with for not doing it amounted to beating myself up.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a long time to realize that.
And it can be hard to break that because, I'm as self-judgmental as the next person. And it's like, so I get mad. I get more mad now when I don't listen. Again, just practice. But it's an easy pattern to get into. So.
The other thing that makes it easy is circumstances, because things happen to us. I mean, no matter what we like to think our focus is actually distracted and distorted and pulled all over the place. So we ended up with a life that mirrors that, which is kind of distracted and all over the place. I don't think anybody I've ever had on the show ever had a straight line to wherever it was they were going. It was always a crooked path that just goes all over the place.
And that's fine. Roller coaster.
Yeah, but it's also confusing as hell.
It is. It's hard when you've got all of these distractions. It's like, okay, where's my focus? And it's so easy to just go, it's too much. It's too confusing. I don't know what to do. But we don't have control.
What do you do when you experience it? When you've got that feeling, though, like it's too much to control, what do you do? Do you just meditate? What do you do?
Let go. It's like when your car, I don't know if you've ever driven in snow and ice, but when you hit a pocket okay, good. Yeah. So when you hit a pocket of ice.
Jody Lynn actually did too, by the way.
Yeah, and I have too. What would they train you? You don't try and steer out of it. You let go of the wheel, and the car rights itself. It's the same thing. Let go of the wheel. I mean, it doesn't have to be meditation. You don't have to go to India, although I highly recommend it. I loved it there. But letting go, just.
You don't have to completely you can keep your finger on the wheel. Just don't grip it. don't grasp.
Because the more you try and counter the spin, the worse the spin gets.
Right.
So, yeah.
You have to let the vehicle tell you what it needs to do.
Yeah, and it'll right itself. And the same thing with our lives. If we let the crazy stuff happen, as much as we don't like it, the more we just go, okay, this is what's going on. How are we going to work with that? How am I going to lean into it? Almost like Aikido. If you lean into the chaos, it makes it easier to because you're not managing it. It's just it just kind of makes it easier to move through it.
So you're an intuitive Aikido master.
I guess so. And so I've got all kinds of new names today. So thank you.
I love it.
I have to put intuitive Aikido Yoda.
There you go. That's a good one. I like that.
I may have to do that. So
yeah, not bad at all. I'm not really one for credentials, but that would be a fun one.
That would be a fun one. Yeah, I think I just had cards made, but I think I have to redo them now.
Totally should.
No, make people go, what? I go, yeah, talk to Walt and Jody Lynn. So.
What do you put on your card, Jody Lynn?
I should put Yoda.
You should. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm in the midst of I think a change, a second coming, something. I'm not sure
Okay.
what's going to go on that card yet. It could be like
Fair enough.
horse trainer,
Yeah.
pumpkin
Okay.
grower.
Now you're talking my language here too. I don't know how. Can I ask how old you are? Are you
Absolutely. You want to guess how old I am first?
yeah, 25? You know.
Oh my gosh, bless your heart. I turn 40 in 15 days.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're not quite at the midlife calling. I call it, it's not a midlife crisis, it's a midlife calling. But I also have a client who's like in her late 30s too. So, but it's oftentimes that midpoint that it's like, oh, there's something's stirring, something else is coming, something's, I don't know what it is, but it's moving you to that, the second half of your life. I think it's like, football, the fourth quarter is always the one where all the good stuff happens. And that's kind of how I feel. Yeah, right. It's where all the good touchdowns, it's the exciting time. And I think that's the last part of half of our lives too.
Oh, I love that.
Can be. Yeah.
Yes. So what do you advise?
In 5 minutes or less.
I know.
Exactly.
Thank you. That's kind of where I went. Oh my God, where do I start?
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that very much, Joe. Well, it starts with learning to recognize intuition. I mean, we all have it, right? It's innate. I call it our internal guidance system, our GPS, God positioning system. I use all of those terms. But so many of us don't listen to it. So that's where I start, is I figure out what's going on with my clients and where they are. And if they're not familiar with doing that, it's practice. It's like, like you've been doing. You start, and I have a tracking sheet. It's like, okay, so write down when it happens, because it's easy to forget. Oh, 2 days ago that happened. You forget. If you write it down, you go, oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, it was. I saw the sign 3 times in a row. I've never noticed that before. Or, somebody told me this, or yeah, I had that little feeling. It's easy to just not pay attention to it. So tracking, I find, is a really helpful tool to really start seeing a pattern, and that helps build confidence. And a lot of times there's, that seeds in us when we're born, whatever it is that only we are here to do, whatever that looks like, however many Yodas there are on the planet. We're all teaching different things and in a different way. And it starts, I don't know, it starts burgeoning, it starts calling. And, it could be, a creative endeavor that, you go to college, you can't be a philosopher, you're never going to make a living doing that, right? Or an artist, no, artists never make any money. So you have that, okay, I'll be a whatever, that you follow, that's going to be a more logical, productive, path. And all of a sudden it's just, you may have a great life. Things may be fantastic, but there's still something that's like, yeah, it's not fulfilled. And it could be, so we look at those things. What did you love? I have a theory that we all knew what it is that we were supposed to be doing when we were in high school, but we just kind of, it gets buried, it gets dismissed, devalued. But so, we kind of look back at that too. So that's where I start. It's just, pulling the first thread. It's fun to see what comes after that.
Curious with your development of intuition. What's been your experience regarding what I call the 2x4 rule?
You like to see the bruises?
Well, it's a very specific rule. The way the 2x4 rule works, it starts with a whisper.
Yes.
And then it's a louder whisper, and then it's a tap on the shoulder, and then it's a nudge, and then it's a push, and then the 2x4 comes out because you've been ignoring it all those other times.
Yep. 2x4
is that like normal as far as you're concerned?
Yeah. Well, again, when we're not listening, when we're not listening, yeah, of course, the universe gets louder. No, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. Get out. And not too long ago, I left a job that I had loved and had been in for a long time. But believe me, it was, I was getting the whispers, and then it started getting more and more. And, my doctor was even like writing me prescriptions. Get out. Seriously, take a leave of absence. And I'm like, I can't do a leave of absence isn't going to change anything, But literally, I have a prescription. She says, take, get, go. And it still took me 6 months before I'm like, oh yeah, okay. It was not an easy transition. I could have made it easier, earlier, but it was difficult in that case because I liked what I was doing a lot, but circumstances were shifting, and I knew, the universe, God, whatever you want to call, whatever name you use, was kind of moving in me in the next direction. So, I took off. I left. And I took off and went to Europe for 3 months to get my head clear. See, I like distances, and I like travel, so it's always an excuse. India, Europe.
That's like your go switch, right? If you're being pushed to do something you want to do, well, put travel into it, and I'll go for that. We know that part.
It makes it easier. It's like, okay, I'm going to do that. But it also, you change your scenery, you change your environment, and it makes it a little, for me, it makes it easier to get a look at a different perspective. And, working on how people found their purpose and how I found my purpose, all of that, it's been festering. I had the name of a book, God, like 30 years ago. And in 2016, I'd started interviewing people on how did you do this? I love biographies. I want to know, how did you do it? So maybe then I can learn. I want to learn by your example. What are your tools? What are your tricks? And then I had a little health adventure, which was another, bat. And COVID and work got busy. And so it kind of got buried. And, with this open space. And when I was traveling around, it was like, okay, it's your turn. It's your time to give back. Figure out how to do that. So here I am.
How did that work out?
So far, so good. So far, so good. Yeah. I'm loving it. It's still new, but yeah.
I mean, we've done a lot to kind of make fun of and bash and degrade and devalue the experience of intuiting, of following that intuition. But the bottom line at the end of the day is it actually pays off. It pays off frequently.
Big time too. Yeah. It's interesting.
When you think about where you want to go now, I mean, because the planner never goes away. The person who has it all rationally figured out never really goes away. No. So when you think about where you're going now and where you think you're going to be, say, in 5 years, that's always the question, right? Where do you think you're going to be in 5 years? Like you're actually supposed to be able to predict where that crazy crooked road is actually going to take you on, right?
What do you mean? You can't? Come on. What's wrong with you guys?
Well, I just go to Jody Lynn and ask her to channel it for me. That's the best clue I've got.
There you go. Now, see, that's interesting because you're trusting somebody else to guide you.
Yeah, right. Because I don't trust myself with that one.
No, okay. I've done that too. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, somebody else tell me.
Right.
But it's like just, I'm talking to myself. Just shut up and listen. Stop talking and pay attention. It's like any skill. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But it's not easy. And the rational mind we need it. It keeps us on track, keeps the trains running, right? There's a place for it, but it's not what moves us forward. It's not it keeps us safe. It keeps us, structured, keeps the bills paid, but it's not what moves us forward in our lives or moves us to our purpose or our fulfillment.
So it isn't, for instance, what made you decide to become a coach to other women learning how to develop the intuition?
My rational mind? Oh, right. Heavens no. The rational mind, like, are you kidding? You're starting over again now? How many times are you going to do this in your life? Right? Well, I guess there's one more at least. Figure it out. You're going to make it work. And, it's funny because I've been going through a lot of things like you were talking about. It's like, but if I step out there, and I don't want to do that, and I don't want to trust that, and the fear of, I'm going to have to be visible. People are going to have to know it's me. No, seriously.
And I have to admit that I'm doing this crazy thing.
It totally. And it's like, I don't want anybody I used to work with to know what I'm doing. I'm like, it's not like it's embarrassing. It's wonderful. I love it. But those are some of the things that I've had to work through to do this, because my rational mind's like, are you crazy? What are you doing? And it's like, no, Nope.
That's where we need the inspiration of a Jody Lynn who says, well, I'm just going to go with that name. I mean, heck with those 10. I'm going for this one.
Yeah.
Why not?
I'm getting the chips. I don't care why. I don't know.
It's not always like that for me.
No.
I do have those things like I don't want them to see this. I'm afraid to be seen.
Yeah.
All those things come up. The meaningless things are very easy for me to be like, oh yeah, whatever. I don't really care. Or you know, like somebody popping in my head and calling them. I don't have any attachment to that. It's typically the bigger things where I'm like,
stuff we really care about.
This is me jumping off a cliff.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Okay.
Who put the cliff there?
Yeah. Why is there a cliff now? Why couldn't it be like some pillows or you know? Right. I don't know.
I want to know there's a nice pool down below that I can land in.
Yeah. Well, most of the time, my logical mind is like, "There's no pool. It's just jagged rocks. Good luck to you. You're gonna die."
And that's how it feels. But I love the way you said meaningless.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, really emphasizing it's like there isn't any meaning there. It's like,
No.
Just jump.
Just
I'm
jump.
afraid of heights, so you know, standing on that cliff is like, maybe not.
Well, there's also the metaphor about the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the person who has an airplane kit and he jumps off the cliff and assembles it on the way down.
Yeah.
God, I love this. You just described my last 8 months.
Yes. So much fun.
I've never heard that, but I love that.
Yeah, that one's gotten a lot of airplay. I like that one a lot too.
That is so true. Oh my gosh, I'm writing that one down.
Well, I mean, we're having so much fun. I look up at the clock as I usually do and say, "Damn, it's over."
Oh my gosh,
God,
that was fast.
It has to be over. Yeah, and it's faster the more fun it is. There's a direct correlation there. Yeah, or I guess it's an indirect correlation, but yeah, every time the faster it is, the more fun it is, and no doubt exactly the same thing here. But we do have a few things we'd like to do at the end of the show. First and foremost, there may be somebody listening who says, "This crazy lady is somebody I want to work with. How do I reach her?"
The Yoda.
Yes. What did you go? I have to listen back. The intuitive Yoda or something.
The intuitive Yoda. Yeah, that was a good one.
Oh, my website is Journey to Purpose. And I do one-on-one coaching. I'm just starting to do a group mastermind. I am happy to offer tracking sheets to anyone that wants to reach out to me from the call, and they can give me a call, just complimentary. Let's just do a jumpstart call and see where you are and maybe what the next step is. You know, sometimes just one phone call can start changing the trajectory. You know, there's like, as we talked about, there's a lot of steps in between, but once you kind of get that focus, like, you know, I had to move out of state. Okay, now what? You know, first step you get, for me, again, I get 3 feet in front of me. You take those 3 feet, the next 3 feet makes itself visible. So any way I can help with that, absolutely love to do that. So.
And we'll make sure Jen will put the link to the website on the show notes.
Yeah. And they can reach out by email to Anna@journeytopurpose.org.
Good.
So feel free to, you know, reach out directly. So
Journey to Purpose. I like that.
Yeah. Well, that's been my life.
Yeah, that's good.
Been my life. So yeah.
Second thing we like to do is I like to turn to Jody Lynn and have her kind of tie the whole thing together with a bow on top, because first of all, because she's so damn good at it. And second of all, because it really ties the whole thing together. So how are you tying it together today, Jody Lynn?
Oh, in a world full of control freaks, myself included. Thank you, Anna, for the reminder of a secret weapon that we have available. You know, when we look from a logical perspective, some things that you said that really were like the ringing bell of coming home to myself in this conversation. 11 million bits in every second, and we process 1%. But that
process 1% through our brain.
Exactly. We process 1% through our brain. The logical side that seems to know an answer to everything only has 1% of the picture. What a beautiful reminder that there is 99% that we can tap into, this knowledge, this wisdom from ourselves, from the world that is around us, from the ether, simply by activating our intuition, by following the calling, by going where we're led, and literally letting go of the steering wheel. Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah.
It automatically corrects.
That's right.
The car corrects and we're on the right path yet again. If we can simply let go of that control and really understand that the logical mind only has 1% of the puzzle piece to this divine timing and to this walk that we're all on of our purpose. So thank you for that beautiful reminder of our own secret weapon that we carry with us every single day, because it is a game changer, and how the world would change, how we would change if we were to just listen, even just 10% more than we do right now. So thank you, Anna.
And in doing that, we really are changing the world. We are changing the world around us with that. And thank you for the reminder on that song. I think that's got to be my theme song. Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah. I love it.
Well, that leads very nicely into the third thing that we do to finish up every episode. The final thing that we do, something I started a few years ago when I noticed we're living in the 21st century, and so it changes the way everything works. We're able to do these wonderful podcasts where we're in different parts of the country or in a different country like Jody Lynn, and it's like, it's nothing, it's no big deal. 30 years ago you had to do a long distance phone call and you couldn't get any video. Now it's like, oh my God, it's everywhere. So you have that, and then you have all the different ways that we're able to, we can do blogs, we can do podcasts, we can write books, we can do all kinds of stuff that just wasn't even available to us 30 years ago. But along with that is the marketing that kind of goes along with that. Marketing now today is, well, here's my stuff, I'm going to put it out there, and if you like any of it, let's talk, or you can buy my book or something like that. But for the most part, it's just putting all this stuff out and putting it out to, very often we don't even know where. Maybe nobody's going to read it, we think, and yet somebody reads it, or they listen to it, or they watch it or something, and then they get something out of it, and we never hear about it. And I think, well, wait a minute, we should get credit for that. So Anna, on behalf of those people you've never met and never seen, never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping in ways you didn't even know about just by putting this stuff out there, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing.
I love that.
Because you're making a difference in this world.
I love that. Back at both of you too. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
A group of Yodas, a trio of Yodas here.
That's right.
So thank you very much. Thank you, podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Fantastic.